Coming up, a last word on Donald Trump, Elizabeth Warren, Pocahontas, and what Donald Trump doesn't know about Pocahontas. And now, tonight's last word, which is Pocahontas. During their centuries of imperialistic rule of Ireland, the English decided they needed a name for the Irish, a slur, something that would serve the purpose of all slurs against all races, ethnicities, and religions, something that would render that group subhuman. That's what those words are meant to do. The N-word is meant to categorize all black people as subhuman, not worthy of human rights. One of the names the English came up with for the Irish was Paddy, an abbreviation of the quintessential Irish name Patrick. And that is the model for Donald Trump's use of the word Pocahontas. Massachusetts Senator Elizabeth Warren is from Oklahoma, and she says she has a small fraction of her ancestry that is Native American. And that is apparently all Donald Trump knows about Elizabeth Warren.
Warren, she seems to have made it her job.
Who, Pocahontas? Pocahontas. Well, look, she is
It's very offensive.
You tell me. Oh, really? Oh, I'm sorry about that. Pocahontas, she is a senator that's highly overrated. She's passed very little legislation. She has been a real disaster for a lot of people, including the Democrats, who frankly can't stand her. I think she's as Native American as I am, okay? That I will tell you. But she's a woman that's been very ineffective, other than she's got a big mouth.
So the candidate with the big mouth doesn't think Elizabeth Warren has Native American ancestry. Donald Trump doesn't like to discuss his own ancestry because, as John Oliver recently revealed, you don't have to go far back to find the name change that gave Donald Trump his current last name.
The very name Trump is the cornerstone of his brand. If only there were a way to uncouple that magical word from the man he really is. Well, guess what? There is. Because it turns out the name Trump was not always his family's name. One biographer found that a prescient ancestor had changed it from, and this is true, Drumpf. Yes, King Drumpf. And Drumpf is much less magical.
One of the many questions that Donald Trump has provoked but will never be asked of him is, who was Pocahontas? What are the odds of Donald Trump getting that question right? Was Pocahontas a fictional character in a Disney cartoon or a real person? There's no way that Donald Trump knows that Pocahontas was a real person, born about 1596. We don't know exactly when, because of course Native American tribes were not issuing birth certificates. She is famous for having befriended the English settlers at Jamestown, Virginia. John Smith wrote a glowing letter to Queen Anne claiming that Pocahontas saved his life when her father was about to have Smith executed. In John Smith's version, Pocahontas laid her head on his head so that Smith could not be beheaded without Pocahontas suffering the same fate. In his letter to the Queen, John Smith said, "She hazarded the beating out of her own brains to save mine, and not only that, but so prevailed with her father that I was safely conducted to Jamestown." In Smith's original account of that dangerous encounter with that tribe, Pocahontas was not mentioned, and so historians doubt the accuracy of his letter to the Queen, but that is the version of Pocahontas that has passed through the centuries and is now the stuff of Disney animation. The reporter that you just heard ask Donald Trump about Elizabeth Warren is Nicole Robertson. She is Native American. Here was her reaction to Donald Trump's use of the word Pocahontas today.
I believe that Mr. Trump and his tone was offensive today. If there was other young Indigenous or Native American young girls sitting here, what's that signaling to them as young Native American girls?
What that is signaling to them is that if they work their way through law school and become a Harvard Law School professor, or if they become senators, no matter what they do in their lives, Donald Trump will reduce them to one word. Donald Trump will do everything he can to rob them of all of their accomplishments and reduce them to one word. And in doing that, Donald Trump is following the model set out for him hundreds of years ago by the people who needed to believe that the people they didn't like were subhuman, that everything that could and should be said about them is reducible to one word. Every group knows what that word is for them. The Jews know the one-word labels that anti-Semites use for them. We all know the one-word label that was invented for black people. If some Native American young girls heard Donald Trump use that word today, no one would have to explain to them what he was trying to do with that word. Here's something the most ignorant person who's ever run for president doesn't know about the word he used today. Pocahontas was not her real name. She and her tribe decided to hide her real name from the English settlers. Historian William Stith explained why in his book published in 1865 titled The History of the First Discovery and Settlement of Virginia. William Stith wrote, "Her real name, it seems, was originally Matoax, which the Indians carefully concealed from the English and changed it to Pocahontas out of a superstitious fear lest they, by the knowledge of her true name, should be enabled to do her some hurt." And tonight, 400 years later, the Republican candidate for president is trying to do Elizabeth Warren some hurt by throwing a name at her that was invented by Native Americans to protect a young woman. And that's tonight's last word. Chris Hayes is up next.